Hi, I'm Chuck Olenek. I'm a reenactor. And for 36 years in the classroom, I used living history to try to breathe life into the subject of world history and some U.S. history, because a lot of students would consider the subjects to be as dead as the people we were studying. So for 36 years in the classroom, I would dress up in garb that didn't belong to this century and try to bring a portable museum into the classroom. Well, now I've got plenty of time on my hands. I've got a room at the house that's filled to capacity, actually more than filled to capacity, with garb, none of which is from this century. I have a passion for bringing the past to life and a desire to preserve landmarks. And that's kind of pointed today, because what I'm involved in is what I very pretentiously call my Mission Odyssey, where I will travel up and down the length of California and try to find each of the missions in Alta California, the Asistencias, those are the spin-off missions, the Estancias that I can find, those are the ranch stations that were to support the missions and raise food, and the presidios, the fortifications to guard the missions. Oh, and other things that happen to catch my fancy or happen to come along on the threads of history that I happen to tug on in the tapestry. And what I'm doing today is I'm leaving Mission San Buenaventura, and I'm going to visit two of the Asistencias that I like to call the lost Asistencias. These were two Asistencias that were to support Mission San Buenaventura. And the reason I call them lost is all there are some stones erected and plaques put in there. And those would be Asistencia Santa Paula and Asistencia Gertrudis. And what's even really more pointed is as I'm doing research for Santa Paula, all I'm finding is evidence of the Portola expedition and a marker. And for Gertrudis, it's under a freeway now. So I'm going to try to preserve the past as best I can. I hope you stick with me on my expedition. Okay, this is it. The first of our lost Asistencias. This is commemorating the existence of Asistencia Santa Paula. The thing is, with the plaque itself, it doesn't give the founding date of the Asistencia. What it acknowledges is on August 13th, 1769, the Portola expedition reached the junction of the Arroyo Mupu with the river Santa Clara, and it was named for the holy martyrs Hipólito and Cassiano. Now, there's no founding date, as I said. This is about 19 miles from Mission San Buenaventura, so obviously it's going to have to have been founded sometime after 1782. And I know that Santa Gertrudis was founded somewhere between 1792 and 1803-ish. So we don't have any real clear dates here. So this would have been an Asistencia. That means essentially doing the work of a mission, ministering to the local Chumash, but it's not going to have a full-time priest. I decided I'm going to try a different approach. This is giving me a better idea of what's happening. because, I researched about Asistencia Santa Paula, and there wasn't a lot of information. I mean, I haven't even found a starting date, but I can connect the dots, and we know that Mission San Buenaventura was founded in 1782, the 9th mission in the chain, the last founded by Father Serra. He did want to found it as the 3rd mission, but there was political weirdness, and so, the 9th mission. What is one of the main things that gets discussed by people that have looked at a book on the missions? They will say that the missions were built a day's journey, apart from each other. But that's not true. There are a number of the missions that you have to travel more than a few days. There's a couple that are like 60 miles apart. Same thing with the Asistencias. So you got to look at that particular angle, and you've also got to look at something else. What were the Spanish doing in Alta California? They were trying to extend political control. And they were doing that in 3 ways. They wanted to, build presidios. Okay, there's that military function. But they also were building the missions designed to provide food, produce food, and also to convert the native Californians. And basically that's a form of conquest. Alright, then they also wanted to build their towns. But in a way, this is a military campaign. And the founding of the missions is the same thing to me as castle building in Europe. Castles were built as military machines. They were designed to control an area. And that's what the missions did. Well, okay, we know, getting back to Santa Paula and getting back to San Buenaventura, San Buenaventura gets founded in 1782. And that's only 13 years after the Portola expedition came through. So what I'm doing right now, I'm coming in the back way. I'm following the route of the Portola expedition. And I've just left Castaic, or the Castaic Junction, and that's where the Estancia San Francisco Xavier was founded, which was intended at some point to grow up to be an Asistencia, and some people claim it is, but it never was. And an Asistencia in turn would grow up into being a mission. Well, the Spanish soldiers that went through, the Soldados de Cuerda, they ended up leaving the expedition on the 10th of August. They'd spent like 3 days in the San Fernando Valley. By the way, Mission San Fernando is not going to get founded until 1797. It's one of the last ones founded in the chain. The Estancia San Francisco, 15 miles away, was an extension. So it's a military extension of, there's also, the idea of the secular stuff, and there's also the religious stuff, but it's an extension of Spanish control into that valley. Well, now I'm driving along basically the course of the river that was named for Santa Clara, and so I'm driving through the Cañada de Santa Clara, as Father Crespi called it, and I'm following the route. So August 10th, the Soldados pack up and they leave, and they are going to ride towards a place called, Piru. Actually, the Tatavian called it Piru, and it came from the name of the tule reeds which were used to weave their homes together. You know, and that's going to go through a name change, which I'm just going to throw it out there. When, you know, this was becoming very Americanized and there was an argument about where train depots would be built, the owner of that area really wanted to have a train depot put in there, but it wasn't put in there. It was put in at the site of the Camulus Rancho, which I mentioned in the San Francisco Xavier videos. So Piru is eventually going to get changed to Piru, and you know, as a matter of fact, the conductors were known to call out as the train is entering the depot, Piru. And an enterprising person had a bakery established that made pies, so they put the pie in Piru. That was their advertising logo. So we are headed now to where the expedition ended up camping, you know, in Piru. This then is the site of where the Portola expedition camped August 11th of 1769 after having left what would become Estancia Francisco Xavier. And they are following the course of the Santa Clara River. Nearby was a village estimated to be about 500 Tatavian. At least I would assume they were Tatavian, since the name Piru comes from Tatavian. And the natives arrived with baskets of pine nuts and acorn flour, and one of the leaders presented Portola with necklaces of polished stones. In turn, Portola gave out beads. So then the expedition's going to spend the night here, and then they're going to press on towards what will eventually become the site of the Santa Paula Asistencia. So, August 12th, you know, Governor Portola tells the expedition, break camp, we're moving on. And they're going to follow the course of the Santa Clara River, and Father Crespi ends up writing to give you an idea of the pace. He said that in 3 hours they covered about 9 or 10 miles, and I suppose you can do the math and convert that into Spanish leagues. And Santa Paula, or where the Asistencia is going to be, is about 17 miles away, according to Google, all right, or Google Maps. And it was at the confluence of, again, the accounts are going to vary, the Santa Paula Creek and the Santa Clara River, or the Arroyo Mupu and the Santa Clara River, which is what the plaque says at the site. But, you know, we have an idea, we have a ballpark. But that means now that the Asistencia, once it gets established, that's easily within striking distance of the Estancia over at San Francisco. So now we're back at the marker for Asistencia Santa Paula, which was actually it's the campsite for the Portola expedition. Father Crespi wrote that they camped near a very large village that he called San Pedro Amoliano. And that idea of a large village here is probably a good reason why the Padres ended up establishing the Asistencia later on. Because remember, we're looking at that thing of, it's sort of like leapfrogging. You know, if you're looking at World War II tactics in the Pacific, you know, as far as, okay, establish a place here, establish another place further on. You know, they're within jumping distance. And we're looking also at, okay, let's look at some possible dates as to when this Asistencia happened. Okay, Ortola expedition comes through 1769. Okay, they've spotted the site, which will be basically 2 days away for the expedition, because when they leave here, they're going to stop and camp at basically Satacoy, and that's where the Santa Clara River broadens out, and there's a plain that kind of broadens out. It makes it easier to travel, and then by the next day, they are establishing where, you know, Ventura is. Remember, they're moving slow because they're exploring, and they're kind of building roads along the way. Think Roman legionaries in some ways. And okay, 1782, Mission Santa Barbara, or excuse me, Mission San Buenaventura is established. Okay, 1797, Mission San Fernando, Rey de España is established. 1804, you know, the Estancia San Francisco Xavier is established. And that's not all that far away. So I think this would probably be an excellent reason to think that maybe the Asistencia of Santa Paula maybe was established sometime between 1804 and 1809. Because in 1809, Santa Gertrudis is established. In the 1830s, all the mission lands were secularized, and the Mexican government began rewarding, let's say, longtime followers or loyal servants. And in 1843, Governor Michel Terena awarded to Manuel Casarin and the 18,000-acre rancho Santa Paula y Satacoy. And he held that for a while, but the war with the United States ends up happening like within 3 years. So 2 years after that, 1848, the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo settles the war, and by 1850, when California becomes a state, there's a new law on the books that says anybody who held a grant from the Spanish government or the Mexican government, they had to reapply for patents for their lands. And this is a long, expensive process, and not everybody got their land back. And that ended up happening to Casarin. He failed to get his land back. It went to an American. Well, let's go visit Santa Gertrudis, the other lost Asistencia. That's about 22 miles away. So we'll be going past Mission San Buenaventura and just a few miles up the road. So let's do this.